What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to show you guys how I draw blonde hair. Okay, so I'll just put the picture up on the screen, the reference that I'm using right now on the screen, so you guys can see, so I can explain some things to you. Because when it comes to blonde hair, it's really one of the easiest hairs to draw. All right, so when you look at the hair, right, most people will probably confuse themselves a lot and think, oh my god, how do I draw all these, white strands and all these kind of things? But when you're drawing hair, you have to think about it as if you were drawing a skin. Break everything down into tonal values. Once you do that, it will make everything easier for you. So one trick I tell people to do is squint your eye, so you cannot see the details in the picture that you're looking at. If you don't prefer to squint your eye, you can probably make the reference a blurry image. Okay, so that way your focus is not on the details. But if you squint your eye, you notice that you can see the tonal values, but you can't really see the individual strands and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we are going to do first. We are going to build the tonal values, and then the details will come in, and that will create that illusion of the strands and all that kind of stuff. All right, so I'm going to make a quick sketch, a rough sketch of the hair. I'm not going to try and make it look as perfect as the reference, because it doesn't really matter in this situation. Okay, so I'm just going to grab my I'm using an H pencil. You can use a whatever, the graphite pencil I'm using doesn't matter. I'm just trying to get the sketch, and then we move on from there. Okay, so give me a second. Right, so I'm just going to make a rough sketch like this. I'm not trying to make anything look perfect. For the sake of this tutorial, it doesn't really. Drawing hair, you don't even have to make everything look as perfect as it is. You can't no one can really replicate every little strand in someone's hair. That's ridiculous. That'll probably take you an eternity, and what's the point? So I'm just going to make a little sketch here of kind of what I see. I know it's not perfect, but and I know my freehand skills are not the best. I can admit that, my freehand skills, which is why I use the grid method, and I take pride in it. There's no shame. I have no shame in using the grid method, but let's just create something small here like this, and then we can have something to go. I don't know if you guys can see the sketch on the video, but hopefully you can. It's just a rough sketch, nothing crazy. Okay, all right, so we have this rough outline of what our hair is going to look like. So now I'm going to squint my eye. I'm going to put my own trick to practice. I'm going to squint my eye, and what I notice is when I break the tones down, I can see the dark tone, I can see the mid-tone, and I can see kind of the highlights. I can see they're not like bright white, but I can see the highlights. So now that we have this knowledge, now we know what the mid-tones, the dark tones, and the highlights are. We're going to apply that onto the paper. Okay, so I'm going to grab my Jacquard charcoal powder that I made. And if you guys don't know what Jacquard is, watch my previous video where I talk about the tools and the materials I use. That will explain all the stuff that I do and the tools that I use. Alright, so I'm going to grab one of I think this is the 4th grade or the 3rd grade. It doesn't matter, to be honest. I'm going to start with a base tone, okay, which is going to be a really light tone. I'm not trying to go dark straight away. Okay, and then I'll indicate where the shadows and the dark areas, roughly where they're going to be. But for now, I just want to start with kind of light tone, just to give myself an idea of where everything is going to be. So it doesn't have to be perfect right now. We're just going to gently brush some of the powder onto the paper. And grab a little bit more of the powder because I need more. And then, so this is like a base rough, I'm not even bothered about it being even. That's one good thing about the hair. When you're shading the hair, right, you don't really need everything to be smooth and even. Like, you need it to be smooth, yes, but you don't need every tone to be perfectly even, because once you add the details, everything kind of blends and into the eye, so you don't really notice the patchiness of the shading. So I just did that area for now, so you guys can see that that's really roughened. So now that I have that, now let's say that is my base tone for the mid-tones. All right, now I'm going to indicate where my shadows are going to be. So I'm going to grab a smaller brush. I don't want to go, because the shadow area is not that big, so I'm just going to grab a smaller brush, grab my darker shade of the Jacquard charcoal, and then we're just going to roughly indicate where the shadows are with the brush as well. So if you guys look in the picture, if you can go back, look at the picture again, you guys can take a screenshot, whatever you want to do. If you want to just use it as a reference to see what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm not really trying to make this perfect, but judging from what I see, the shadow areas around this side of the drawing, or around the side of the hair, I should say. So just indicate where the shadows are going to be, right here. Okay, then we can add a little bit more. Don't never be scared to go dark, especially when it comes to hair. Just play with it. You just have to play with it. Don't have fun. People are scared to draw hair and all these things. Hair should be one of the least things you should be scared to do, because you can change someone's hair. Like, this person is blonde, I could make the person have dark hair. It doesn't matter. It's your artwork. Unless you're doing it for like a commission for someone and the person wants blonde hair, the person wants dark hair, then that's different. But if you're creating your own thing, okay. So now that's my dark tone that I just put down, right? I'll just show where my dark tones are going to be. Okay, so now notice how this light area seems much lighter. Okay, so let's just say now that's our highlight. I'm going to add in a little bit more tones to this, so those could be the mid-tones. So I'm going to grab my big brush again, grab some of the darker charcoal powder, because I need it to go a little bit darker, not as dark as the shadow areas, but a little bit darker, so we can indicate where the mid-tones are going to be, just like that. Now this will all make sense on something, okay? Because we're going to, this is just like I said, this is a base, so we're going to keep adding to the values till everything appears. And one thing I notice people do is they have something like this, and then they call it a day, and then they're so excited, they just grab their they grab their Tombow eraser and just start creating strands. Guys, I always tell you, tonal values are the most important things when it comes to realism, and that applies for hair as well. If the tonal values in the hair, this is too light, I cannot just say, okay, this is my shadows, these are my mid-tones, and that's my highlights, and then I grab I'm so excited, and then I'm going to grab my Tombow eraser and then just start creating strands like that. Like, no, that's a rookie mistake, right? So let's just be patient with it. Play, have fun with your drawing. Take your time with it. There's no need to rush, right? So I'm just going in, adding more value just to indicate where the mid-tones are going. And someone will be like, But Jeff, this is getting really close to the dark area. Don't worry, we're going to add more to this. We're going to adjust everything. One good thing about the Jacquard charcoal is if you go too dark, you can always use a white. You can use a white charcoal powder, right? You can use that to lighten up that area of your shading. Okay, so you don't have to worry about going too dark like that. Okay, that's the beauty of having the Jacquard, because it comes in different shades of gray, from white all the way to dark gray. So if you go too dark, you can use some of the white just to lighten up the area, or you can use like a lighter gray. If you don't want to make it too white, you can just use a lighter gray. Okay, so now we have this. We have to add a little bit on top as well, because I can see the midtones come all the way up here. Okay, so I'm probably going to divide this video into parts, because it also will be a really long video, which I don't want to do. I'm going to divide it into parts, so this will be part 1, and then we'll come back for part 2. Okay, so it's been 11 minutes so far. We'll just give it a few more minutes, and then we'll call it we'll call that part 1. Okay, so let's just keep adding. Okay, so now we are getting there. Okay, it's slowly building up. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my paintbrush again. Well, makeup brush, paintbrush, whichever one you want to use. I'm going to grab a paintbrush this time. And this is the paintbrush I'm using. I'm using this because it has a more rigid end to it. So I'm going to be able to go darker because I want to add a little bit more to the shadow area. Okay, so just going to grab my dark charcoal powder again. See how much darker this can go, and that's the same charcoal powder I used for the first layer, but just because the brush has a harder tip, it's able to go darker, and I'm able to push into the paper even more because the bristles of the brush are not too soft. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you wonder why your dark charcoal powder is not going too dark, it could be your paintbrush is too soft, so you need to grab a harder paintbrush, one that has shorter bristles and a harder tip to the, you understand what I mean. So just make that a little bit darker. Now don't worry about it being perfect. We can even play with some here, because if you look through the midtones, even where there's midtones and highlights, you can see there's some dark lines in there. So don't worry, you can just go through them like this, play with it a little bit, just smudge everything fun, and then everything starts building up nicely, just like that. Hair has to be fun. Hair has to be really, really fun. So we have that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it, this is going to be part 1 for this hair tutorial. All right, so I'll see you guys in part 2.